Greetings comic book fans and welcome to my comic book reviews for the 5th week of July 2015. We have 16 books to review this week, so without further ado, let's get to those reviews. So just two titles to review from DC this week. We're kicking it off with Batgirl issue number 42. And the creative team of this book are just really on a roll. I'm really enjoying the book and I'm really enjoying what they're doing with the character. I think Batgirl is written really well in here. The gist of it is he's come to Burnside, and as Barbara's father, he's told her that he's the new Batman and that he's going to have to kind of take out all these other vigilantes because they only want like one sanctioned kind of superhero. But Barbara hasn't told her dad that she's Batgirl, so he doesn't know still. So you've got this kind of whole thing of like, how's he going to react? Because you've got to think at some point he's going to find out, and that, you know, how's he going to react that he was open with her but that she's had this secret for years. But I like how they use Batgirl in this. I think it's the best, other than the Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo Batman book. I think this is the best that they've used the Batgirl, because in a lot of the books, yeah, he's not quite there yet, he's making mistakes, so he doesn't seem quite like Batman, because Batman doesn't usually make mistakes. But here, there's like, he's fighting an unfamiliar villain, and he isn't kind of represented as being totally clueless. He's still quite good, and he's still, so I like how he's portrayed in this really good, and the scenes between Batgirl and Batgirl are really good as well. I'm loving what they're doing with Frankie, as she kind of becoming this new Oracle character, which I really like. You know, just because, you know, she's in a wheelchair does not mean she can't still be a hero, and I've always really loved kind of that, going back to the original Oracle. So I'm glad they're bringing that back into the book with a different character. Maybe it's going to be Oracle, but I'm liking what they're doing there, and that she's a major part of Batgirl's team support network. All in all, just really loving this book right now, and I give Batgirl issue 42 5 stars out of 5. So our last DC book for now, it is Superman issue 42. This book, where the other books are kind of dealing with the aftermath of him being outed to being Clark Kent and him not quite having all of his powers, this is giving us the explanation into how that all come about. There's a really great scene in this issue where Lois kind of confronts Clark, that she knows his secret, she knows he's Superman, and she explains how she put it all together, so I really like that scene. It's an action-packed book, loads of great stuff, but you've got those odd moments of kind of between the characters, which is nice and gives us a breather. Minor Real Daniel, I thought the villain was a bit underwhelming, considering this is the guy that's going to be responsible for so much trouble. It didn't seem that big of a villain for this to have happened. So yeah, I was a bit underwhelmed with the villain, but other than that, I'm really enjoying this book. A lot of fun, and really kind of, you can kind of see the story coming together. Like this issue, I think we see why Superman hasn't quite got his powers. We kind of getting clues to why Lois outed him as Clark Kent. So it's all coming together nicely, and I'm going to give Superman issue 42 4 stars out of 5. So yeah, real quick there for the DC reviews. Next up, it's the Indies. So 6 indie books to review this week, and we're going to kick it off with Valiant Comics, and from them this week we have Ninjak issue number 5. Last issue, Ninjak had kind of they kind of rumbled him, and so this issue we get to see him go toe to toe with Roku, and then Cannon steps forward and he's like, no, I want to take the dude. So then we get to see Ninjak and Cannon have this big battle. We also get flashbacks to Ninjak's youth, and there's a line I want to use to kind of illustrate, like, because we find something big out about his parents, and there's a line, and I think it's really appropriate. It's a Roddy Piper line, and I think it's really appropriate this week with the sad news that he's passed on, to use this line that Piper used to use, like, just when you think you've got all the answers, they change the questions. And in this issue, they do that with Ninjak's parents. We thought they were just these rich parents that were off traveling, and kind of the questions we have about them now have changed. We thought they were just a normal rich family, but no, there's something more going on here as Ninjak makes a discovery that totally changes the questions about that. I like the balance they've got between what's going on in the present and the past, and it doesn't detract from one or the other, and kind of those little glimpses of the past leave you wanting more. Then in the back we have the Lost Files, where last issue we saw Ninjak was having an affair. In the early days of him becoming a secret agent, was having an affair with his handler, which is a big no-no, and she got killed. This we find out more about the people who killed him and how it kind of ties back to a decision Ninjak made a few issues ago, which is really cool. And we meet his new handler, and kind of they got the same last name, so I don't know if all the handlers are kind of have these names or if they were related. But Ninjak, I'm really loving the Lost Files. They're really kind of giving us back to his early days, and I'm really interested. All in all, this was just another fantastic issue. This book, and it seems to be a thing with Valiant, that sometimes their books will start off not that strong, but as the issues go by, they get better and better, and this is the case here. They lay the groundwork with those early issues, and then kind of the last couple of issues, it just really come to life and really exploded into something really quite special, and I'm really enjoying it. And I give Ninjak issue number 5 stars out of 5. So now we're moving over to Titan Comics, and it is Doctor Who, 9th Doctor Adventures, issue number 3 of 5. This is a 5-issue mini-series, so we're in the middle now. The main story I'm really enjoying, which is somebody's buying these leftover artifacts from the Time Warp, and the 9th Doctor kind of want to find out who it is. So he puts his brain, which has all these secrets, up for sale, and somebody's bought it, and now they're kind of like, we want your brain, and he's trying to find out about them, and they're trying to get access to his mind and his memories. So really interesting kind of thing going on at the central of the story. The stuff around that, these aliens fighting and Jack and Rose in peril, isn't as interesting. You know, it isn't as fleshed out as the main bit. It's that main crutch of the story that really pulls this issue along. The other thing for me that was a bit of a downer was we have this bit where like he looks like the Doctor gets killed, but then we see he isn't, and there's this bit where how are Jack and Rose going to escape, and then Jack finds a way to use his time travel device. I can't remember what it was called. It was the Disrupt Time. I can't remember. Anyway, that thing he has on his wrist, and he travels into the TARDIS, which I'd have thought with the TARDIS' shields it would have been impossible. But so that Jack gets past that peril. Then the issue ends on Jack again being in peril, Jack and Rose being in peril, and you kind of like, well, we've seen 2 cliffhangers already. This issue get resolved, so like it kind of negates the end. The end isn't as big of a cliffhanger as it would have been, because already we've had all these moments in the book where it looks like they're in peril and then they're not, and they get out of it. You know, so I felt it was a third time too many in the one issue. Though I do really like how they've written the 9th Doctor here. His character's really spot on, and there's some great moments art-wise, like this moment when he's trying to get the aliens trying to get the Doctor's memories is a really great moment art-wise. But yeah, all in all, this was alright, middle of the road for me. I'd give it 3 stars out of 5. So sticking with Titan and sticking with Doctor Who, we have the 10th Doctor, issue number 13. And this issue, what I liked about this issue is we have these separate stories, and they all seem to be converging now together. This alien has kind of merged with this actress Dorothy, and the Doctor's trying to figure out what it is. We've got these other guys that are looking at how they can use this. So yeah, and then there's this whole alien in space that's headed to Earth. So there's a lot going on here, and I really enjoyed it. I really like the Doctor's companion Gabby. I think she's really a great character, and there's never any fear. There's just a joy of being involved in all this. So that's really cool. We have the Doctor trying to figure everything out, and like I said, the stories are all coming together, which is really good. There are some great moments with the art where it looks like, you know, like they've almost looks like they've used like photos. I'm trying to find the bit in space. It looks like they've kind of used photos and then art on top of that. But yeah, all in all, I'm really I'm enjoying the story, and like I say, things are coming together, and I'm going to give it 4 stars out of 5. Still with Titan, we have the 12th Doctor Adventures, issue number 10. I love that cover, and I love this issue. We have the Doctor in 1960s Las Vegas, hanging out with kind of a version of the Rat Pack. I don't know if like Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, and Sammy Davis Jr., if there's kind of like some kind of copyright thing that you can't use their likeness, but they do their own version of it. But you still know it's the Rat Pack that they're based off of. So you've got the Rat Pack, you've got 1960s Las Vegas, you've got mafia gangsters, you've got aliens trying to invade the Earth. There are some, again in this issue, there are some great moments art-wise. This is one of my favourite moments with the aliens kind of in Mars attack mode, kind of attacking the planet. I really like how they've got the Doctor, the 12th Doctor. They've got his crankiness, but it's all. And there's a boxer in here, and I don't know. I kind of am guessing that he's based off Sonny Liston, who Muhammad Ali beat for his first title, but I could be wrong. But yeah, this was great. A lot of fun. Really enjoyed it. And I'm just going to give it 5 out of 5 because it was just such a hoot. So now we're moving over to Image, and we have Invisible Republic issue number 5. This is one of those books, the deeper I get into the story and the more I learn of it, the more kind of engrossed I get into the story. It's one of those, and I think this is going to read tremendously well as a trade. The last issue of the first arc. So this issue we get to see how Maya gets back in with Arthur. I think, was it Arthur McBride? Arthur McBride, the dictator. We get to see how she comes involved with him and how things have changed for him since she last left him. In the present day, we've got Kroger Bab has got somebody who's helping him now kind of get this story out that he's got about Maya and helping him get to the bottom of what's true and stuff. There's a fantastic cliffhanger that has me really eager for the next issue to see how that's all going to go down. This is just tremendous. Really, really good stuff. I'm really enjoying it. Art-wise, I like the subtle colour differences. Like, that's our modern day story with Kroger, and then we have like that's our story in the past. It's not one of those books I think you could jump on. I think you need to read it from the beginning. So if you've not been reading this, try the trade. Image always do a good deal on the first trade of any kind of series. So yeah, try it because it's really good. The further you get into it, the more engrossed. This great kind of political drama going on, set on another planet. I'm really enjoying it, and really excited to see what happens next. And I give him Invisible Republic issue number 5 stars out of 5. So our final indie book this week, it is Lazarus issue number 18. This was tremendous. This almost got my pick of the week. It wasn't far off. It's another one of those books, the deeper you get into it, the more engrossed you get in the story. We have war, and so Forever is leading this small team to kind of infiltrate the enemy and take out something they need taken out. And things are going really well, and then it all goes pear-shaped. While meanwhile, we get to see, the one son is now running the family, and he's kind of, he has his doubts whether he's cut out for this. You've got machinations going on with other members of the family. We've got Michael, our doctor, who we saw in a previous arc. He's come back into the story now. So yeah, it's really, really good stuff. Lots going on. It's one of those books, again, you can't just pick up because I think you'd be lost. You need to go back to the beginning and read it all the way through. But it is a really good book, and there's just so much going on, and I really enjoyed it. And the last page is a real shocker, and I'm super psyched to see where we're going to go next. So I'm going to give Lazarus issue number 18 5 stars out of 5. So those are my indie reviews. Next up, it's time to make ours Marvel. So Marvel this week, we have 7 books to review. Kicking it off with a book, I think it came out a few months ago now. It is Groot issue #1. I really loved the Silver Surfer book, and I'm really loving that character. And the guy in my comic shop said if I like Silver Surfer, it may be worth picking up Groot issue #2. They had sold out of 1 and 2, but I found them on eBay. A Place in Space gave them it a very good price and sent them me really quickly as well. Well packaged. Good place to look at. A Place in Space if you want to get your comic book goodness. So I picked up the first 2 issues of Groot. Haven't read the second issue yet, but I read the first issue just last night. This was really good. I didn't expect to enjoy it as much as I did. It was fantastic. The way that the characters are written in this are very reminiscent of how they are in the movie. The creative team on this book are not 2 names I'm familiar with. It is Jeff Loveness, the writer, and on art we have Brian Kessinger. 2 names I'm not that familiar with, but they do a fantastic job with this book. The base gist of the story is that Groot wants to visit Earth, so after Rocket has blown up their ship, they decide to hitchhike, and it's just their adventures trying to get to Earth. And it's just a simple premise for a story, but there's so much fun is in here as they encounter space sharks, they encounter Skrulls trying to disguise themselves as humans, they encounter space pirates, there's kind of a riff on Superman in here. It's just a lot of fun, really great stuff. It's rated T for teen, but I think you could share this with your kid. Violence wise, you have them shooting at space sharks and fighting pirates, and Groot does get his chest blown, but it's like a tree, so it's like it's not gory or nothing. It just gets a hole in his chest. So that's on the violence stake. And swearing wise, Rocket does use the word flark a lot, but other than that, so depending how you feel on them, it could be a book you could maybe share with your kids. The art in this is really good. This is the scene with the Skrulls, when they're hitchhiking with the Skrulls. This is the scene with like the riff on Superman. His parents going to launch into space, and then here's the bit with the space pirates. And I've got to give you some space shark action. But yeah, this book was a lot of fun. Definitely going to add it to my pool. I'm not sure if it's a mini or an ongoing, but it was a lot of fun. Really enjoyed this, and I give Groot issue #1 5 stars out of 5. So this week's books now, and we have X-Men 92, issue #2. This is a Secret Wars book. This issue was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. They really get the tone of the cartoon, but also the comic of the cartoon, because they did, in the 90s when the cartoon was on, they did a comic called X-Men Adventures, which was basically the comic version of the cartoon series, which it had the cartoon episodes but put into a comic. And the way that they would do that, not just the way that they would draw it, but the thing as well with the boxes, this is all very much laid out like that comic book was. So I really like that. So it gives it the tone, not just of the cartoon series, but the comic of the cartoon series. So that's really cool. This issue we get a lot of the backstories, as Cassandra Nova is trying to turn each of the different members of the X-Men. And so we get them in turn, we get Rogue's backstory, we get Storm's backstory, we get a real good insight into Wolverine's psyche, and a look at Gambit's backstory as well. And that's all really good, and I really enjoyed that, and made for a really interesting story. But also a lot of fun thrown in there as well, that you wouldn't expect, as kind of some of the X-Men are kind of rejected, and we find out what happens to those who are rejected. We get to see the comic book characters kind of put into the X-Men cartoon world, so that's really cool. We get our possible saviors introduced at the end, which is really cool as well. All of this is, again, it was another book that was just a lot of fun. and I'm going to give this book 5 stars out of 5 because I just really enjoyed it. So next up we have our other Secret Wars book. It is a Battle World book. It is Thors, issue number 2. I loved the first issue. It was my pick of the week when it came out. This book, it kind of goes away a bit from the police procedural drama that the first issue was so heavy in, and so it isn't as good, but was still a lot of fun. Basically, a Thor has been killed, and so the Thors are just turning over every rock to kind of find out who killed this Thor. So, you know, there's a lot of good stuff here, a lot of investigating. We get introduced to Thor the Unworthy, who's been kicked off the force, and I like the twist on his character, and he seems to be the only one who's a little bit clued in to what that everything isn't as it should be. So I really liked that, and the twist with that character. I'm liking the whole murder mystery thing as we find another body, this time for Donald Blake, and it's kind of like, what's the connection? We've got, you know, Jane Foster, now Donald Blake, and kind of we the reader, we know, but it's interesting seeing the characters in the comic catch up with us. I'm liking where it ends and where it's heading. It's still a lot of fun, even if it doesn't reach the heights of the first issue. It's still a lot of fun, and it just seems like Jason Aaron, when he's writing anything Thor related, can do no wrong, and I give Thor's issue number 2 4 stars out of 5. So now we have our only last days book of the week. It is Black Widow, issue number 20. Not just the last days, but it's the last issue of Black Widow, which is a shame. I do like that cover. I think that was a real clever cover. This issue will be at part 2 of our story that goes back to Black Widow's days working for the Red Room, and she's in Cuba and she's got to take out this family, and it's all a lot of a really great fun in that kind of 60s espionage kind of way, but seeing it from a different angle, seeing it from the angle of the Russian agent, because usually it's the British or the American agent we see it from, but it's really cool seeing it from the side of, say, the villain. The book is a lot of fun, and then it just takes a really dark turn, and I was just shocked how dark the book gets. Yeah, it really surprised me. It's dark in a good way, and everything happens as you feel it should. And it kind of illustrates what Black Widow means when she says she's got a lot of red on her ledger. You see here that, oh my god, this girl was a bad kitty, because the book gets really dark. Really enjoyed the story though, really great stuff. Sad to see this finish, but a great way to go out, and I give Black Widow issue number 20 5 stars out of 5. So next up we have Deathlok, issue number 10, which this is, I think, is as well the last issue of this. I like the direction. Last issue week ended, they've taken out biotech, but then Deathlok gets this information above in front of his eye that if he doesn't do what they say, that they're going to hurt his daughter. I like the way they deal with that this issue. It isn't the kind of way you would have expected, but it's the way that felt the more realistic, and I liked it. I like what they did, and overall I really like the direction of this book. It doesn't feel like a last issue. It feels more like this was the setup for an ongoing, that we've got to this point now, and that we kind of seen where Deathlok's going. We've seen what's happening with S.H.I.E.L.D. We see what's happening with the people behind biotech. So everything's kind of really set up, so it definitely does not feel like an end, rather than a pause in an ongoing story. But yeah, I really like this. Again, art-wise, there are some great moments art-wise in this. I'm trying to find, you know, I'm really liking Mike Perkins' art. But yeah, this was another book that was just really good. And I've got to think that this is going to stay on ongoing, because it just, the way they leave it, there's still so much story to tell. But I'm going to give Deathlok issue number 10 5 stars out of 5. So our penultimate book from Marvel this week, it is Daredevil issue number 17. And poor old Matt, he can't catch a break. Things just seem to get from bad to worse for him. Just when you think he's kind of reached, like, this is bad, how's he going to get out of this situation, you kind of get to like, oh my life, things have just got a lot worse. And it's kind of like there's two villains in this, and they're each, and Matt's trying to deal with one at a time, but then the other villain's kind of getting in the way with what he's wanting to do. So yeah, but it's still so much fun, even though so many bad things happen to Matt. which is strange. The art here by Chris Samney is just gorgeous and beautiful. He and Wade make such a great team, and it would be really interesting seeing them in the future maybe work on a different book and seeing if that magic is just with the character that they've got the magic, or if they can kind of transfer that magic to anything. It was nice to see the old outfit make an appearance. That was really cool. The battle between, is it Atari? I always think of it as Ikiri. I always call him Atari for some reason. Atari I call him. Ikari and Daredevil have this fantastic fight, and yeah, it's just all the way through. This is brilliant. Really loving Daredevil. Really interested to see where they're going to take the story. And I give issue number 17 of Daredevil 5 stars out of 5. Just really great stuff. We then have Star Wars issue number 7. This is a self-contained story going back to Obi-Wan Kenobi's first days on Tatooine. I enjoyed the inner journey and the inner struggle of Obi-Wan Kenobi, because like as a Jedi you're kind of taught to help others, you know. The Sith is all about self and about looking within, and it's about being selfish and all the negative emotions. Where a Jedi, it's about being selfless, it's about helping others and thinking about others. That's why like Jedis aren't allowed possessions, because even having a possession is thinking about the self, where you know you're thinking about helping others. And so like Obi-Wan's got this natural kind of thing that's been taught to him from when he's a kid to think of others, and now he's kind of got this mission. He's just got to protect Luke and watch over Luke, and so he can't draw attention to himself, especially with Darth Vader out there hunting down the last of the Jedi. He doesn't want to kind of get noticed. So this issue we got that he's got this inner struggle as you have these gangsters hired by Jabba going round taking people's water, and there's a drought on Tatooine and water is very hard to come by, and we never get really explained why Jabba wants all this water or why this is going on, because this kind of deal, it didn't kind of strike me as that's Jabba's deal. Yeah, Jabba's a bad guy, he's a gangster, and you could maybe see him being involved in things like people trafficking, sex trade stuff, smuggling kind of illegal products and stuff, and selling stolen goods. But I never thought kind of this seems too small time for Jabba, going around taking bits of water off these moisture farmers. It seems too small time for Jabba. And it never really gets explained, and that kind of is part of where the story falls down. So while I like seeing the inner struggle of Obi-Wan Kenobi, the bits around that, if you look at it too heavily, it kind of falls down and it doesn't really make sense why it's going on. The art as well I liked, but I didn't think it fit the story, so that didn't help either. But overall, I did really enjoy seeing the journey that Obi-Wan goes on in this, his character-wise, and how he comes to kind of some kind of place of inner peace and inner calm, and I like that a lot. And it'd be interesting if they did more of these kind of things, like at the end of an arc. It would be interesting for them to do these. But I give Star Wars issue number 7 4 stars out of 5. So there we go. Those are Marvels. Next up, it's Pick of the Week. So my pick of the week for the 5th week of July 2015 is Batgirl Annual issue number 3. This was fantastic. It was so much fun, and it was everything an annual should be. It's a self-contained story. They use a clever way to use multiple artists. It's a self-contained story. It has cameos from other characters, and just really illustrates all the best points about the ongoing title. Like, if you was curious about Batgirl but kind of didn't want to get in because you'd missed so many issues, this is a great way to kind of get a taste of what the current Batgirl comic is about. The basic gist of the story is Batgirl. There's these kind of terrorists that Batgirl's kind of taking down, and she sees her teaming up with Spiral, and in the first story she teams up with Spiral, but Dick Grayson's like, she can't see me, so they kind of have to come up with a way so that Grayson is always a step ahead of Batgirl. And there's like really great moments here as she almost sees him, as he gets kind of caught out. This moment here where they're round the corner from each other, but then she gets caught away. But then, like, that's the first part of the story with Batgirl, with Grayson. But then they kind of link it through to, like, you have next up you have the spoiler, so they change for the spoiler part of the story. We get a different artist, and then we jump to Batwoman. She has to team up with Batwoman for the next part of the story. But it's all one story all the way through with these different cameos. And then kind of the last part of the story as Maps and Olive Silverlock, is it, from Gotham Academy. So the art changes up again. But because each bit is a separate part of the story, it just works really, really well. The characters are introduced, it seems logical why they turn up at the different points, and as a whole story it was a lot of fun. I really, really enjoyed it, and it was just everything I'd want in an annual. So really great job, and I think in future, whenever they're going to do an annual, this is kind of the blueprint for what you want to do with an annual, and I just absolutely loved it. My favourite part of the story is the Grayson bit, because the whole tension with, is she going to find out like that it's Dick Grayson she's working with, and how's she going to react to that. So that was really cool, and there's a funny moment with the end of that story that I won't spoil. But yeah, this was fantastic, and I give Batgirl Annual number 3 a definite pick of the week from me. So here we are at the end of my video, which can mean only one thing. It is time for Company of the Week. For those of you who may be new, what Company of the Week is each week, say for example I take the Marvel books I reviewed this week, I had the scores together, divide by the number of books I reviewed, and it gives me an average score. And I do the same then with the Indy books and with the DC books, and then that gives me an average score for each one, and I see which one got the best average score, and that gives me my Company of the Week. So in third place this week is the Indies with an average of 4.5. In second place with an average rating of 4.6 are DC Comics. So in first place this week with an average rating of 4.7 it is Marvel Comics. So Marvel get Company of the Week. So that's me done. I will be back tomorrow as this goes up the day before New Comic Book Day. So I will be back on New Comic Book Day with a haul video, and then hopefully at some point, there's a lot of football this week here in the UK. Football, I think you call it in the States, even in Australia I think you call it soccer. This new season kicks off this weekend. My team, Aston Villa, they're away at Bournemouth's first game in the top division. So it's going to be a tough one for Villa, because they're going to be all G'd up for their first game in the Premiership. But I love the beginning of the season. So much hope, so much excitement, seeing all the new players make their debuts for their different teams. So yeah, so my weekend is going to be made up of football. I'll be listening to the Villa's game on the radio. I'll then be watching Saturday night. I think there's a match on. Then Sunday, pretty much all day Sunday, I'll be watching football. I think me and my wife were taking my mum to see Fantastic Four in the morning. So Sunday morning, go see Fantastic Four, come home, cook dinner. Man's work's never done, and then I'm going to just chillax and watch the football. So there'll be no comic book video over the weekend, because it's 15 books this week, so it's feasible I could have read them by the weekend. So probably the same point next week. The new review video will be up at this point next week, I'm trying to say. My long-winded way of trying to tell you it won't be up the weekend. But anywho, thank you very much for watching. Please, if you liked my video, give me those thumbs up. Let me know you like what I'm doing. I'll see you all again soon. All that leaves me to say is once again, thank you. I've been Jason. These have been my comic book reviews. Bye for now.